necessarily have to. Yeah, I don't know. Or, yeah. I don't know. Are we ready, Amy? Okay. Paulette, I'm going to swing it yet.
Okay.
We'll call the meeting to order. This is the time and place for the regular school board meeting for August 1st, 2022. Welcome to those of you in attendance with us in person this evening. Welcome to those of you viewing on the live stream, or for anybody tuning in at a later date or time. A couple of things before we start. We've got a pink sign-up sheet here on the speaker's table for anybody who wants to speak at public comment time or about any specific agenda item. Please understand that per board policy, board members may not respond to comments made in order to comply with open meetings laws. Please also understand that Iowa law prohibits discussing specific employees of the district or their job performance. With that, we'll do some introductions. Board members joining us tonight, to my right, Zach Wall and Bonnie Lowry. To my left, Karina Hernandez, Sarah Faltis, Leah Stanley. Joining us via Zoom is board member Jan McGinnis. Hi, Jan. Or perhaps not.
Hi, Sean.
There she is. Here at the center table with me, Paulette Newbold, the board secretary, Dr. Theron Schutte, the superintendent of schools, and I am Sean Heitman. Would you all please join me in reading the mission statement for the Marshalltown School District? We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. And would you all please stand as you're able and join me in the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, you'll see several yellow highlighted cells in the personnel consent agenda. Overall, we had a couple resignations come in, transfer or a change of contract for a custodian going from a full-time custodian to a substitute custodian. You'll see VIL's stipend, and that is a Verizon Innovation, it's a technology stipend, and we doubled the amount from what you would have seen the weekend and doubled it and said it's for the whole school year. So those amounts are twice as large and it's encompassing the entire year. Yeah, keep going, please. I think that. And then the last item on there is we are transferring Michaela Waka from Title I teacher split at Franklin Hoagland to being the school counselor at Fisher Elementary. So several changes on the personnel consent agenda. Thanks.
We also have a slight adjustment on the Youth and Shelter Services contract. The change is simply changing the word or the term counselor to that of therapist with that agreement.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Lowry, Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Is that I'm doing or are you doing, Dr. Schutte?
I am.
Okay.
Carrie, if you come forward. So it's my pleasure to recognize Carrie, you, Mike, and Raycom for being a career readiness partner of the Marshalltown Community School District. Raycom has been a long-standing partner in both providing human capital or volunteer service as well as financial support for many of the different STEM and CTE initiatives that we've had going on in the district. Everything from ST Math when we got that off the ground to our modular tech lab at Miller, Most recently, our exciting esports programming that's going to be kicking off. They were a key sponsor for that, and we were glad that they were once again part of our teacher externship experience that we just had. 50 teachers from Marshtown and the surrounding areas be able to tour and learn a lot about the jobs and careers that are at Raycom. And most recently, I actually had to call Mike because our administrative retreat was to be held at Grimes Farm, and they called me on Monday before the Thursday retreat saying, oh, we made a mistake and double booked. And so I quickly called, and Raycom pivoted and allowed us to use their fourth floor conference room, which if you haven't been in there, it's just an unbelievably beautiful facility. So with that, and I know Carrie, as well as Mike, have just been extraordinarily generous as parents with the district as well, whether it be the Booster Club efforts that Carrie's made or Mike serving on the school board. He was invited, but I think he was worried we broke into some policy review. So with that, I want to thank you, Carrie, for Raycom's continued support. Thank you very much.
I just want to make sure Amy's not peeking back there next to me. I might have you guys move over this space here. That does happen. All right.
Thank you again. Pass our thanks to Mike.
Will do. Thank you.
Turning to the consent agenda, we've got minutes from the July 11 board meeting. Dr. Ryan, is there anything additional to note in personnel?
I just wanted to quick say a few words about Deb Hopkins, a para at at Miller. Dave Glenn, one of the co-principals at Miller, wrote the following about Deb. Hoppy, as he called her, has been at Miller longer than most everyone who is still there. She has done just about everything that a paraprofessional should be expected to do and more. Her boundless energy and consistent presence at Miller will be missed. She's always had a spring in her step, a smile on her face, and time for students when they needed her. One would be hard-pressed to find a more dedicated and professional employee than Hoppy. All of Miller wishes her the best in retirement, and we will miss her in the halls and classrooms for years to come. And she faithfully served us for over 3 decades, so she will definitely be missed. And then you'll see that the consent agenda is quite large. That's not typical, but it is so large because of all of the stipends that we put on there. It's just a once-a-year thing. Stipends for PLC leads and things like that. So it's quite a large consent agenda, which is not typical. But thanks for your patience in going through all of that. Thanks.
Looking at interagency agreements and contracts, we've got an agreement with Iowa State University for the Science Bound program. We've got an agreement with Hay Tutor Inc. for master tutoring services. A student teaching agreement with Grandview University, a 1-year extension with Pizza Hut for the 22-23 school year, and an extension with Highland Dairy for the 22-23 school year. We've got an athletic training services contract with Sports Plus for the 22-23 school year, and then agreements with Youth and Shelter Services, with Center Associates, with the Strengthening Center, and with Grace C. May to provide mental health and counseling services. And we also have a quote from the Center for Responsive Schools for Fly 5 curriculum, an SEL curriculum for the guidance department to be done at Anson. Is that right, Matt?
And Franklin.
And Franklin? Okay. Are there questions about any of those agreements and contracts?
I do just have a couple of questions. Thanks, Matt, for entertaining them. Really, it's to help me understand just a little bit better. Went through all the contracts, the agreements there with YSS Center Associates, Gracie May, and Strengthening Center. And looking at the contracts, the wording appears to be the same in the contracts, with the exception of Center Associates.
Correct.
Because they're paid differently. In the contract, it does say that they would be in, all the buildings are listed, 1 day a week. So are therapists or counselors from each of these organizations in all of our buildings 1 day a week?
No. So YSS has one therapist who meets our needs, and they move wherever the students' requests really are, but the majority of their time last year was spent at the high school. The Strengthening Center has one therapist. The majority of that person's time was spent at Lenahan last year. They did touch in Miller and Woodbury as well.
Okay.
Gracie May has 3 therapists that cover across any building we need. And then Center Associates has 8 therapists that serve our district in a variety of capacities across settings.
Okay.
And so I would probably say that all of our buildings are covered on any given day, but really Center Associates provides the majority of service to our district.
Sure. And so all the agencies, with the exception of Center Associates, really show up if there's a need that they've received a call? Do they pop into specific buildings on 1 day a week? Or do they wait for the referral?
Okay. Outside of Center Associates, sorry, I'm just
That's
talking about
okay.
it. Outside of Center Associates, all the other places, the agreements allow them to come see kids in our schools. And that's really all we do is give them permission to come in and guarantee we'll give them a private setting and we'll give them access to the information that we would normally exchange with them. Services are really on a parent referral. Sometimes our school counselors or school staff will make a referral as in, hey, there are these agencies that you can work with if you're seeing these kinds of things. But for the most part, it's coordinated between that agency and that family to happen in our schools. So we don't have a lot of involvement at that level.
So the private practices really are private practice, and they come to school to meet the needs of that family and that child.
Yes,
So they're really kind of on call due to referrals.
yes.
Awesome. Okay, and the last thing I just want to clarify, I think I read in the contracts that Center Associates is the only counseling organization that's working in our therapeutic classroom.
Correct.
Okay.
So we did an agreement over the summer. We are having a full-time therapist that is supervised by Center Associates, working between our therapeutic classroom to meet the needs there, as well as support our kids with disabilities at MLA.
Okay.
So it's separate from that agreement, but we are working because we do need people credentialed for that supervision and that malpractice insurance.
Got it. Thank you very much. That's it.
Yep. Any other questions?
Thanks, Matt. Looking at open enrollments, there are 10, 3 in and 7 out. Paulette, anything to note in bills? We have 1 summer graduate from the high school.
Just a reminder to the board members, so when we list continuation next to an open enrollment, that's a situation where a family has moved out of residence from their prior school. Like, for example, they've moved into Marshtown from one of the surrounding schools and wish to continue to have their child attend. So that's an opportunity that any parent has or family. And so anytime we write continuation, that's what that means. They're just going to continue, regardless of where they live, to attend the school their kids have been attending.
And then it gifts, grants, and bequests, several more donations for the aquatics display board at the high school. Questions from anybody about any of those items? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve?
Lowry Hernandez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Nobody here for public comment? You're up, Amy.
So this would typically be something that Shauna would probably talk more about. My involvement is because Goguardian is a technology that we use to filter student devices. So we already use this. We have students set up in this. This is how we stay compliant with what we need to filter on school or in school and out of school. And this company has added more and more features that really can help us in the classroom as well. So this feature is called Teacher, so Goguardian Teacher. And throughout this past year, Shauna, Dave, and myself have demoed this software. It allows teachers within their classroom to filter a device even further. So I can say, we're working on this one website right now. We're going to do our research in this one website as a teacher. I can push that link to all the devices and lock them into that one website. They can't search other, I'm not over here helping Johnny and Emily's on YouTube messing around. We can make sure that they're locked into something. We could also say, I want for my classroom for this hour for YouTube to be completely blocked and everything else is open. I think that's the main distraction. I want my kids to be able to go to 3 or 4 websites to research, to type their paper and that sort of thing. So it allows the teacher to do those sorts of things, or maybe in a computer science type of situation to sit at his or her desk and sort of monitor all the devices at once. I can see a snippet of everyone's device and make sure that they're all on track and they're doing what it is they're supposed to be doing. This software also gives us some pretty great analytics for being able to make a case for the software that we're currently using. How often are those devices going to Amplify or to ST Math, that sort of thing, so we can quickly and easily say, this is a really great use of our money by seeing how often these sites are visited. So we're asking for 1 year to purchase this for all of the teachers in our district. We think that's the best option because we've heard from teachers at every level that this is a feature that they would like. So we don't really want to try to limit it. We could look at analytics down the road next year to see, okay, are the high schoolers mostly using this, or is there pockets where we should keep it and where we don't need it? But we really think that all of our teachers will enjoy this tool.
Is this an annual cost then?
This is an annual cost.
This is something that I actually had a teacher approach me about, and I didn't go to you because I had just one teacher talk to me about it, not the 4 that we're waiting for. But it does seem like, from a teacher's perspective, it would be extremely helpful.
Amy, I noticed that the quote expired on June 30th. Will they extend that for
Yes.
us, or have we already purchased, or what's happened?
Yes, it's good through this meeting. We've already talked to them about it.
Okay.
Will the teachers all be trained on how to use it?
Yes, there's not a lot of time to do so. So Dave Stanfield and I have come up with a plan for how to, we're going to do several videos of our own, and they also have an online bank of tutorials for how teachers can use this. So we'll reach out with communication to them, and then Dave and I have a half hour in front of the new teachers, and then we're also invited to a few other orientations. Shauna is also going to point to these resources, and then we thought throughout the year, Dave, myself, will make ourselves available to be able to pop into classrooms if it's requested.
Other questions? there a motion to approve the purchase of Goguardian from SMS Tech Solutions in the amount of $23,976 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Stanley Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
So I was really excited and also really challenged in that we had 6 applicants for student school board rep this past year. We had 4 applicants from Marshtown High School, 2 applicants from Marshtown Learning Academy. 3 of the 6 were seniors to be, and 3 of the 6 were juniors to be. So I'm putting before you 4 students that I'm recommending be chosen as this year's student school board reps: Natalie Andrade, Abraham Madrigal Ferraris, Jackson Eisenbarth, and Yesenia Alvarez Zamora. 3 of the 4 are seniors. And as has been the case in the past, when we've had more applicants than we have positions for, we usually try to cap it at 4. We send a letter to them thanking them for their interest and highly encouraging them, especially when they're underclassmen, to apply again next year, and usually put a priority in the fact that they have applied once before and are still interested in doing it. So it's always a rat race because we start the process in April, trying to recruit, and the applicants come in slowly, if at all. And so I keep hounding Mrs. Wyatt and Mr. Gosling that there's got to be some high-quality kids out there that want to do this. And so around the deadline, we were sitting at about 2, and then all of a sudden it turned into 6. So that was good in the end. So anyway, these are the 4 that I'm recommending, and I think they'll serve us well this coming year.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve Natalie Andrade, Abraham Madrigal Farias, Jackson Eisenbarth, and Yesenia Alvarez Zamora as student school board representatives for the 22-23 school year?
Move to approve.
Lowry
Second.
Hernandez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0.
And most likely their first board meeting will be the first meeting in September after school's gotten started there. The next item, 2023 legislative priorities. I had shared with you before our previous priorities and the documents that the Iowa Association of School Board provides every year as we consider these. In taking a look at the previous year's priorities, I really felt that many of them are still top priorities today. The school funding policy, the state supplemental aid are just ongoing continual needs. With the school funding policy, it's really about how to make the policy as equitable as possible versus equal, because there are different needs by different districts depending on their circumstances. With the state supplemental aid, it's a matter of giving increases annually that hopefully keep pace with inflation, which has not been the case for most of the past decade. Continued support for youth mental health, youth as well as adult mental health. And then I retained our previous desire to have the state continue to focus on reducing achievement gaps or eliminating achievement gaps. The way that it was stated was for loss of in-person instruction, but the reality is that we had significant, as many districts do, achievement gaps prior to COVID. We'll have them post-COVID whenever and if that occurs. And so I think in this case, it isn't really as much about money, throwing money at that, as it is helping provide continued guidance and knowledge and strategies how to most effectively address that, of which I do believe that we're on a really good path this year with our work with accelerated learning, which was really started with the governor's summit last fall when we became acquainted with TNT out of Dallas, the Dallas area. So the other priority I put on here was just a priority about support of public education in response to what's been happening the last couple of years in the legislature where when the limited funding that they have available leads to small increases year after year for public education. I don't think that's a great time to talk about diverting those limited funds to private school entities. And so I felt it necessary to also have something related to that, which whether or not that winds up emanating into a true legislative agenda item. What happens here is that we submit these and to the Iowa Association of School Boards, and then when they have their delegate assembly in conjunction with the annual conference in November, Sean in the past has represented us, and they ultimately vote on, excuse me, on those priorities. So these are what I would put forward to the board to approve for the coming year, and there'll also be a framework for which we will speak with our area legislators in December of this year.
Yeah, every school district who's a member of the ISB submits their policy priorities, and then at that convention delegate assembly, you see what's kind of bubbled to the top amongst all of the member school districts. So, but I mean, as far as these priorities, Dr. Schutte, I think, I mean, you could pick almost anything out of the list. You know, the ISB sort of suggested ideas, but these seem to make a lot of sense for our district, not just for our district, but for many districts across the state, in particular with the public education priority. So, other thoughts, questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the 2023 legislative priorities as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
Faltis McGinnis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving quickly.
We're flying. Policies.
Okay. So the four policies that are in the first reading, 401.13, staff technology use. Amy had presented some adjustments to the existing policy at the last meeting. 501.14, open enrollment transfers and procedure as a sending district. These were changes that we needed to make based on the legislature's adjustment of the law as it related to that or the code. 507.2, administration of medication to students. We had some adjustments, again, through Stacy Toole Crawford, our lead nurse, based on adjustments that ISB was recommending based on legislation. And 507.2E1, authorization for asthma or other airway constricting disease medication or epinephrine auto-injector self-administration consent form. That's a long title. We had not made any adjustments to what you saw under review last week, so I would recommend approving those four changes and waiving a second reading.
Any questions about any of those policies? Not, is there a motion to approve 401.13, 501.14, 507.2, and 507.2E1 and waive the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Lowry, Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. And then I had the initial policy review for this evening. Mine are all pretty simple. So 500.1, there are no recommended changes, and so I would recommend that we mark that one as reviewed. 501.1, the only recommended changes are cleaning up some cross-references and some legal references, but the actual text of the policy itself is unchanged, so I recommend that be marked as reviewed. And the same with 501.2. We just need to clean up one legal reference. But again, the text of the policy itself remains unchanged. So I'd recommend that one be marked as reviewed as well. Everybody's okay? Okay. Adam, you're up.
Good evening. Wow, this seat's higher than it normally is. There we go.
Maybe you've grown.
Gosh, I wish. Yeah, tonight, just bringing back that, the new updated logo option. And then Amy's got the couple different iterations I had shown last time, and it does look like they've updated the little stars have been replaced by circles according to our feedbacks on that circle logo. So this is what we're recommending approval of this evening. And I want to reiterate, we did, there was a pretty extensive process of gaining support and feedback from the website task force. And this is also, of course, part of the larger project for our updated website. So Juicebox produced these in accordance with that agreement.
So we kind of have, two kinds of logos that go on in the district. One is that most people are familiar with is the Bobcat head, and there's different opinions on whether they like or not like the Bobcat head, or the Bobcat head and the M, the block M, which, you see all over the high school, the athletic areas and that sort of thing. Then you have our district logo, which goes on things like letterhead and, anything that comes out of our district office. So we had purposely wanted to focus just on the district logo piece with this investigation and determination whether we wanted to make any changes. For the most part, the existing logo really didn't resonate with too many people. I think back when that was designed and developed, a lot of the people that were around during that time are no longer here. We weren't quite sure what the backstory was on that. We had since found out through social media a little bit of the backstory on it. But, as we were looking at a lot of different ideas and iterations, I think we just all gravitated to going back to, this type of block M because it has become so prevalent throughout the community. And for the most part, most recently with, the support of the Assistance League, there's block M's in front of every single one of our school buildings. So it really kind of sort of made sense to stick with that versus there were some different ideas or more, I guess you'd say, modern M's, not necessarily flying M, but, a fancy font. And it just didn't seem that would make sense to switch to something like that when we've done a lot of branding in the recent past that, is stuck in with tradition. So we do feel like these are cleaned up quite a bit from what we've had in the past, that they're very professional looking and they make sense in conjunction with everything else that we've got going on branding wise right now. And we did have a lot of debate within that stakeholder group because there are people within that committee that felt very strongly we needed to completely do something differently when we started that process. But I think everybody was pretty solidly in support with what we fell upon here.
I would agree. That was my takeaway from that group's feedback as well. This was one of two logos that was really narrowed down to, as Theron was referring to. But initially, the group had I don't even remember the number, it was probably close to a dozen different logo iterations that they presented the group with. So this was one of the favorites for everybody out of that entire larger group. And then there were preferences, of course, but we were able to get it narrowed down to what we were presenting tonight.
Well, and I think another important thing to state was we did not seek services for the specific purpose of doing this rebranding. This just happened to be kind of part of the overall package for the upgrading of our website, was to clean those things up or make those adjustments. And so I think there were some comments about the district having spent money to go outside of Marshalltown in order to do this work, and really that wasn't the intent at all. And it was not the primary focus when we did land on choosing Juicebox to be our new provider of website, so.
Questions? Comments?
I like that it's extremely consistent. You know, pulling the community in, the school district, it just kind of as a whole organization, it just makes everything smooth and consistent.
So which one are we going to see more of, the left or the right?
Well, so these are all these different iterations. So when you say left or right, are you talking on that top of the square here? So the main two kind of iterations of this logo, so you can see the one over here, it's on my left-hand side. And then, Amy, if you'll scroll down, that one there, the more horizontal orientation, those are the two you'll mainly see on press releases, or other general white paper sort of releases from the district. The others are there in case, you know, that can be used for any number of things, including apparel, if we want to do that. It's those different iterations provide us with some flexibility with the same logo and the same, I guess, philosophy and design elements that come with it. So that's the other nice thing about what Juicebox offered, was we get not just one iteration of one logo, we get a lot of variety that we have at, you know, kind of before us.
My kid just asked me about apparel.
Okay.
With football season and different sports, volleyball. Is Juicebox, we have something where we have like 3 basic shirts that anybody can just order anytime versus waiting one part of the year? Or hats, baseball hats where, I mean, they're on season all year round where they can order them directly, you get them.
Yeah. My understanding is a lot of the apparel, and maybe Theron, this is something you'd know more about, but a lot of the apparel and that sort of thing is the Booster Club kind of leads a lot of that. So this will be obviously, if they choose to use this logo. We also have our more athletic, the Bobcat logo, as Theron was saying earlier. So that would be the one that typically is going to appear on those most commonly. But as far as T-shirts or anything specific like that, I think that's up to us. I think we can take and run with the logos we have at our disposal. I don't believe that's part of our agreement with Juicebox specifically.
And that'd make it easier for individuals to, I know Booster Club, once in a while I work with Booster Club, so we have all year round, they can go to the Marshtown website and order, you know, these 3 basic shirts or hats.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly relay that to both Ryan Isgrig and whoever's in charge of Booster Club this year. It seems that, you know, when I first came to the district 6 years ago, there was a lot of on-site sales of T-shirts and hats and that sort of thing, and they've kind of moved away from that. I think for fear of, you know, wanting to move away from ordering a bunch of stuff that may or may not sell to taking orders online for things. I think that it is focused primarily on parents of people that are participating in those activities through those specific programs, whether it be volleyball, football, you know, what swimming, what have. And so we can relay that desire to Ryan and/or the Booster Club to see if maybe there will be future desire to make something more universally available. I know that generally also they need a certain amount of orders in order to get a certain price on, to get a better price on things. Outside of that, it's pretty limited in terms of where you can get stuff. I know Walmart sells some stuff. I know Walgreens sells some stuff, and I think occasionally Hy-Vee, but it's fairly limited unless you have a direct access to the boosters.
Hy-Vee's pretty permanent. I've seen that. We have about credit card.
Oh, okay.
Then I seen it at the consignment store up in State.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's
Retta.
Retta, yeah, she is an alum. So, yeah.
What about in Stitches? Do they hold our branding? If they have a right to our branding, ordering shirts, will they put the emblem on also?
Yeah, none of our stuff is copyrighted, so they have historically done a lot of business where people have brought things in and have asked them to put M's or Bobcat heads, and I know they have some of that on hand there, so.
That might be another avenue too.
Yeah.
It's hard to find. So, clarifying question. So what's in front of us today, we're being asked to approve both the horizontal and the vertical logo? Or are we being asked to make a choice between the two?
Everything before you, if you were to vote yes for this item, all of these logos would be for our use. The primary versions of this logo are the I guess vertical oriented one there on the left-hand side, and then that horizontal. Those would be the two main iterations that you'd see the most.
Are there other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the new MCSD logo as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Wall, Lowry, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. And
And
as long as
I
you're there,
guess-
how about
yeah.
your,
So the big thing since we last met, Dr. Schutte and I were able to go to Chicago for the INSPRA National Conference, and it was a great experience. It was my first time being able to go. I was unable to make it last year, and the year before, it did not happen for COVID reasons. So it was quite an experience. I got to meet folks who have similar roles. I got to meet folks who have all kinds of district sizes and experiences, and some of them are more, rural and smaller. Some of them are more urban and larger. Some of them are kind of like us, where they're kind of mid-sized but diverse and unique in a lot of ways. So lots of great conversations, a lot of really good seminars. I got more ideas. I lost count of how many pages of notes I took at the various seminars I went to. So it was a great experience. I appreciate you all supporting us going out there, and look forward to going to St. Louis next year is where it's taking place. So I don't know, Dr. Schutte, if you had any feedback from that, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, so they made a special effort to cater a lot of the sessions to superintendents as well as communications directors, because I think oftentimes communications directors will come forward with all these great ideas and then they get shut down at the superintendent or the board level. And so Adam and I made a purposeful effort oftentimes to split up and to go to different sessions and then compare notes at the end of each day that we were there. I was particularly interested in what was happening with podcasting across the country. There were a number of different sessions where superintendents and or districts were facilitating their own podcasts, and so that might be something that we look to do. I was over at KFJB today and talking with Todd Steinkamp a little bit about that and what it would take as well. Some districts had their own radio station as well as podcasts, but I think that might be something neat and something that would lend itself to the type of information that came forward in our communication and marketing audit as well.
Good way to get student voices out there, too.
Might be an idea for the Orpheum.
Yeah.
That,
Well, that,
we talked about that a
that
little
too was part of, that has been part of our discussions. Once we have access to that, it might be an excellent place for students as well to have podcasts. And we have had a little bit of that in the past. We had
Yeah.
a student a few years ago that had a
Had a
pretty
passion for
successful
it. Yeah.
podcast.
Let's say somebody, I don't know, was it Mrs. Frohwein at the high school?
I believe
Had
it was
some-
one of her students,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm blanking on the student's name at the moment, but yeah, this student had a particular interest in podcasting, and I know that if we reintroduce such an opportunity, yeah, that would, I'm sure we would have multiple kids who would be interested in that.
Any other questions for Adam?
Thank you.
What's the latest update on the website?
So website, this was a big step for the design. So that logo, along with being a logo we can use, is also the sort of the lines in different shapes, the colors, all of that will be directly used in our website design so that it looks cohesive, good, high quality. So that was actually a major step in that process. So design work is happening now, and then I believe the next step would be coding. So the tech folks over at Juicebox need to actually make the site clickable once we have it looking good, as it will when it's live. Once it's coded, it's a matter of going through, making sure the pages are organized. I've been working on the back end, going through our current website, and I actually got a little bit of advice from our tech team, some of whom have worked on websites before and had some good ideas for me about how we could organize the website in a familiar but also maybe a little bit more intuitive way to get around for people to navigate the website. So I've been organizing that on the back end as the work continues over at Juicebox, getting the actual website built.
Anything else? Okay, thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Looking then at reminders, Leah, you've got initial review policies for next meeting on August 15th. It's not in here, but next Monday, August 8th, we'll have a meeting to discuss goal setting. Is that the intention?
Yeah, we'll have a work session that will be on the school attendance center plans, and a reminder to please take the time, if you haven't started, because there's at least 10 of them, to watch those, what were to be 10-minute videos on each of the buildings, because that will feed into the overall presentation that both Shauna and Matt will make regarding our data, and then we can have some discussion about district-wide goals going forward that will then feed those attendance center goals. We'll probably have a very brief special board meeting just prior to the work session, because Nora will very likely have a number of contracts that we'll need to approve for the coming year.
Committee reports, I assume we don't have any. I would just say here, I'm going to send out either tonight or tomorrow to everybody just the list of committees, because I think we need to get committees assigned before the start of the school year instead of waiting until November. So I'm going to send out the list just as a reminder of what all the committees are and what they do. Send me back by the end of the week or the first of next week what your 2 or 3 preferred committees would be. And we'll try and get that done and assigned by the August 15th meeting, so that when the start of the school year rolls around, everybody knows what committees they're on, because those will start meeting once the school year starts up again. So, anything for future agendas anybody wants to point out? If
No,
not-
but the meeting next week, does that start at 5 then? Or are we gonna
Yes.
try to meet there?
5 to
5 o'clock?
7, yep. It may just be that we have a special meeting at the very beginning prior to heading into the work session.
Okay,
So it'd be during that same time frame.
okay.
Well, what have we done this evening to improve education for the students in Marshalltown?
I think the Goguardian will remove some of the distractions that keep our students from getting all of their work done.
We'll keep them all together anyway, not allowing them to access other websites. They will all be together and on the same page.
I think approving at least our legislative priorities is important for our kids, and I think that's a big deal. Anything else from anybody?
I would also say just being planful and mindful about the need of the mental health for mental wellness in our community and providing all of the agencies. Thank you, Matt, for putting all that together and the explanation with regard to how we bring people into our schools to meet the needs of all of our students. And it's going to take a village to help us get through, especially to keep going from mental illness to mental wellness and moving us in that direction. So, thank you.
If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Which one of you was that? Okay. Stanley Hernandez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We are adjourned.